Welcome.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another podcast of Shooting the Shetty with me, Shawn Shetty, and my co host.
Tarun and Shetty.
As you can see, we're professionals at this.
My God, this is another horrible start.
Well, if you make it through the whole podcast, we'll send you $1,000.
I still don't know what the topic of this podcast is.
It's Shooting the Shetty. So let's just shoot the shit.
Is it SNL? I forget.
Can be. It can be whatever you want it to be.
Well, why don't you set it up then? Because Saturday Night Live. Before I get into it, I think for both of us, Saturday Night Live was a huge influence in terms of not only career-wise, but just formative as how our brains work. I think growing up, as I think we were both like TV kids growing up who watched like a lot of too much TV, and it shaped the way.
I've been trying to figure out why my life has been pretty bad, and I think that's pretty much answered the question.
Saturday Night Live.
No, watching too much TV.
Hey, that's what the topic's about.
There you go.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Because you know what the answer for me is, but was there a season of Saturday Night Live that is your favorite?
Out of the whole history of the show?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows that growing up, when you hit that age of puberty and your mind starts to kind of expand a little bit, you really identify with whatever year that is. So, when you're 12, 13, that's the year you're going to identify with. And for me, that's 92, 93 season.
Same here. Well, actually,
I think they've actually done scientific studies.
Really?
I don't know.
Well, actually, to be honest, I think actually for me it was actually like 93. This is so stupid. People are like, I'm clicking. Anybody who asked it. It's actually the 93-94 season, because I don't really like the Dennis Leary kind of Dana Carvey thing, but once those guys kind of cleared out, and it was like Adam Sandler, Mike Myers, Chris Rock, David Spade, Norm Macdonald, like Chris Farley, when it was like that hardcore cast. You know what I'm saying? Like there was like a little bit of an 80s bleed through. You know what I'm saying?
Tarun, you ignorant slut. Yeah, I get what you're saying. No, I thought, for me personally, it was a good blend of the old school and the new school, like Dana Carvey, Mike Myers, Phil Hartman, those guys combined with the new blood of Adam Sandler and David Spade, Chris Farley. I think both of those mentalities working together really helped shape the show and put new energy into it. And I kind of think when the older squad left that year or the following years, that's why they basically fired everybody else.
Wait. Say that again. So you're saying when that core nucleus left, they fired everybody else just to wipe it all out?
Because it wasn't sustainable. I mean, all the established people left in like 93, 94.
They fired Adam Sandler, right?
They fired everybody. David Spade, Adam Sandler, Chris Farley. Remember they had that infamous sketch where they go to the zoo and they all jump into the polar bear.
Yes, I do remember that.
And that was kind of like their attitude about it. It's like, oh, we're out of here. Let's just kill ourselves.
No, is that why they wrote that sketch?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that. I thought that was just like sketch.
No, they were just acknowledging what was going on.
So the impetus behind the whole firing was they just wanted to start a clean slate because with a whole new cast,
Hmm.
which was like around what, like 96?
No, 95, 96. Yeah, that's when actually Will Ferrell started.
Hmm. Well, so if you're just tuning into this or tuning out, Saturday Night Live was a huge influence for both of us for many different ways. Um, why was it? I know you talked about your puberty and all that stuff, but like, what about that season? What about that show really stood out to you? Like, why did that? Why was it such an important influence in your life?
If you go back to that era, it's really the explosion of media and a lot of things going on that came together at the right time. I mean, you look at Wayne's World was the most popular thing, and because it was about two kids just acting like kids and shooting the shit and being kooky, and then they came out with the movie, which was just amazing because it wasn't a linear type of humor. It was very surrealistic and out there, and that really connected, I think, with a lot of people in our generation.
Mm. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think, just on a more simplistic level, like why I identified with that show, and I think you're right. I think as kids, you have these
Right.
heroes.
What I was trying to get to is that it became very youthful again. Like, in the late '80s, it seemed very not intellectual, but very adult oriented, and a lot of the sketches seemed adult and uh, out of place for teenagers. But then, like I said, with Mike Myers and Dana Carvey, they tapped into the energy of teenagers and the humor of it. So I think that's really what appealed to a lot of people.
It's funny because I'm kind of just exploring this now, and I guess obviously I'm not thinking about back then when I was like 12, 13. I wasn't thinking about like my energy or you know the generational zeitgeist, whatever. But just in terms of a kid, I think like when I see like today's kids and they look at these YouTube stars and they kind of like they like being in their world. We didn't have obviously YouTube or none of that stuff growing up, but I definitely identified with Adam Sandler and David Spade, and like something about them was like, oh my god, these are my heroes. Like it's the same way if I was like I guess a musician, and I've heard like stories of like guys looking up to like Metallica and rock stars and stuff, or but I was like, man, comedy, especially that show, those guys were like my Spider-Mans and like superheroes that I looked up to as a kid for some weird reason. I don't know why.
Well, no, because like I said, it comes down to being a teenager, and Adam Sandler and David Spade, Chris Farley, they all had the energy of teenagers, and they're all in their early 20s, mid 20s. So Adam Sandler was doing this funny voices and characters. Chris Farley was jumping around and dancing, and then David Spade was snarky. What other no teenager is not snarky. So that's what you really identified with.
I'd even put it's funny even when Conan O'Brien came out, I was a huge Conan O'Brien fan, like more so back then than now. But I was like, man, it's something about like this was our guy or this is my guy that I could stay up late because my the older generation had like Letterman or Carson, whatever. But like when Conan and SNL, I was like, man, these are my guys. As stupid as that sounds, like there was this
Well,
connection,
it's
which
always
is
gonna it's
which
always gonna
carries
be
over
like.
today, which is why I watch Adam Sandler movies because I was like, man, there's that loyalty to these dudes, which it's kind of like being part of the Nazi youth or something, like it's
Uh,
brainwashed.
I wouldn't say that. No, it comes down to when you're a teenager and you see somebody in their early 20s doing something you're connecting with. That's the connection. I mean, that's why, like, even with grunge, uh, I love the grunge music movement. And when Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Soundgarden came out, I was 13. They must have been, 25.
Sure.
That's who you connect with, because they're taking all that experience and youth they had when they were 13, and now they're finally able to express it.
It's funny because I was talking to my cousin, and she's got a 11-year-old, 12-year-old, and she was telling me he's a huge Hassan Minaj fan from The Daily Show,
Mm.
and like anything he does, like he follows. And I was thinking, I was like, that's interesting, and I was like, oh, that's because that's what he connects with. Also, with The Daily Show probably being on the internet and stuff, it's more just catered to teens and stuff. But it's interesting how every generation, has their own celebrities or heroes that kids look up to. That it's really formative on their what they do and how they think. And I know for me personally, looking back, I wasn't aware of it, but I really loved their writing on SNL. Like I'm kind of a natural writer, and I kind of love their writing centric sketches they used to do. Uh, and even now when you send me that link to all those old sketches, like I'd rather watch those old sketches than any of the new stuff because I
Well,
just think
that
the writing
that's
is
that
great.
has to do with aging, though. For me, unfortunately, you know, you're getting older when nothing new excites you, and you just want to go back to the stuff you love, and it's kind of a bad thing. There's tons of new movies, comedy, musicians that are out there now, but I still go back to the well of everything that I loved when I was 13, 14. And you can't get away from that. It just happens to everybody.
Hmm. Was it you? I mean, you were telling me at one point, maybe it was you, that SNL's now catered more towards kids. So it's more just silliness. Was that you were telling me this? It's kind of silly
I mean,
sketches towards.
I heard that. I heard that from an article, read that, where I think in the writers' room, they do try to put things that try to connect with the younger audiences. Uh, I mean, if you go back to like '88 of SNL, for some reason I feel like it was very just adult oriented.
What was
You know,
'88 SNL? Who was on that show?
uh, like Phil Hartman, uh, John Lovitz, Dennis Miller. I mean, if you just go back to Dennis Miller's Weekend Update, it was just all like, I thought he was the most boringest guy in the world, but
Yeah.
he was pretty smart, I guess. He making political jokes, uh, you know, everything that flew above your head when you're only, 8, 9, 10. Uh, and when Sandler comes on and you're a kid and he's doing funny voices, that's going to connect with you more than a joke about George W. Bush. George H.W. Bush, I mean.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? This is the brilliance of Lorne Michaels. I'm just really just talking out loud right now. Like compare this to like the X-Men or something. How everyone has like their own like unique superpowers. Like that's how I viewed SNL. Like everyone was so unique on that show. Like there's Chris Farley was like the fat guy, Adam Sandler the silly guy, and you're right. David Spade the snarky guy. Like there was almost like this. So it's like humanized like these characters on TV. You know what I'm saying? Like they were like real people, but they're all like they were distinct characters. Which Norm Macdonald was like his own unique entity. So it was just cool to see that as a kid. And I can't even like maybe the show is like that now. Maybe like it's diverse and you can kind of separate into characters and stuff. But back then especially, I felt like it really stood out.
Uh, for those listening, and you could probably tell that since we're talking a lot about our teenage childhood years, we're two guys in our late 30s with arrested development. So we'd rather be 14-year-olds right now.
How many girls have told me that I act like I'm 14?
You're plenty.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Um, hmm. Well, are there any shows like that today that you can compare it to?
What, SNL?
Yeah, from like back in the day, comedy show. Because I would say, well, actually, I can't say today, but I mean, the Ben Stiller show was a great show to me. That was a great sketch show. I mean, there's so many great sketch shows, but like they were great sketches. I never thought they were like SNL comparable. I thought they were just kind of just like like those two guys in HBO. I'm sorry, I can't even think of their names. Mr. Show,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Mr. Show.
David Cross,
Yeah.
Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah. Again, so I think of that era. So a lot of it comes down to how long something's been in the media, or something has been expressed. And once it's been around long enough, then you can play with the format and change it around. And that's why uh, I think a lot of that stuff hits with us because it became very surreal and nonlinear. And, you don't have to have story structure in order to tell a joke or something like that. And that's what a lot of those comedies at the time did. SNL, Mr. Show, the Ben Stiller Show. Uh, yeah, again, that's kind of why we connected to those.
Well,
But I was just thinking, they didn't even originate though. If you think about it, Monty Python back in the 70s and 80s, they were doing that too.
sure. I mean, yeah, I guess you can go way back, but
But for us, because there was kind of a lack of Monty Python, you didn't really see it on TV. I think PBS used to show old shows, but like hardly used to watch PBS. But like now, a kid nowadays has access to all of this. They can watch comedy at any point in the last 70 years. It's pretty crazy.
yeah, I'm trying to think the difference between for me and like what makes SNL different than the other shows. Because even though some of the sketches are funnier in the Ben Stiller show, whatever, it was more the fact that I was watching SNL and be like, hey, look, Chris Farley and Adam Sandler are. It was like my friends were in a sketch doing a thing. Like my friends are in a scenario, and then the other shows was the actual sketch. It's like I could identify with the people in the sketch more than the actual sketch. Does that make sense to you?
Right.
Like it's almost like I'm giving them like Adam Sandler as Canteen Boy. Not that it was an amazing sketch, but I'm like, hey, that's my friend Adam Sandler doing this funny sketch. While in like Mr. Show, I'm watching that purely as a comedic standpoint. Like, oh, let's see this as a funny. You know what I'm saying? Like I could identify with them as people, which actually, dude, you know what's so funny, dude? Like as I'm saying this out loud, because I do stand up, and that's the number one thing that I've learned as a stand up. It doesn't really matter what you say on stage, but the audience has to identify with you as a funny person first. Once that's established, you can do whatever you want. And I think that's what that show did on a sketch level. Like I identified with those people as funny people first, and then it didn't matter what the hell they did because I would have been a fan regardless. So like you said, they're jumping into a polar bear pit. That's hilarious to me, even though there's nothing happened. Because I love those that whole that whole cast.
Yeah, like I said, it's because well, like you said, you identify them as friends.
They are my
Everyone's
friends.
got a snarky friend. Everyone's got a friend who does silly voices.
Yeah.
Another one who likes to fall into things and be funny.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I never really realized that. Cool. Right now, they're my imaginary friends.
That's sad.
It's funny because it reminds me of a interview with Jay Leno, and I remember him saying that if you see Sean Penn on the street you kind of stare at him, and maybe you say hi. But with Leno, he was like, people come up to me like I'm like their best friend, and they just start talking to me because they just relate to him because they see him every single day and stuff. Like there's something about comedy that just kind of breaks down those barriers where you feel like you have that relationship, and it kind of cements the fandom where people will just keep supporting you no matter what you do.
Yeah, I mean, in a talk show host case, well, you know what? That's the thing, though. It's you wouldn't do that to David Letterman. I don't think people would jump up to David Letterman and be like, "Hey, dude, what's up?" I think a lot of it has to do with personality too. Jay was a very open person, and he comes off as like that. Plus, he's telling you jokes every day at night.
Yeah, I guess let me rephrase that. I think comedy attracts certain personalities. Like the same fans of Leno wouldn't be same fans of Letterman. Although, because I know people who are like diehard Letterman fans too, and they hate Leno. You know what I'm saying? Like it's weird how like comedy, like like for us that SNL thing, that was lasered into us. While who knows, maybe Mr. Show was a big deal to other kids that generate. Who knows? But
Well,
it's so
I mean,
weird how like personalities.
it was. It's only
Yeah.
it's only because uh, one, I think SNL ran every Saturday night,
Yep.
11:30, and it was cool to stay up and watch it. And Mr. Show is a cable show, and it was a little bit smarter, I'm gonna say, than some of the SNL sketches because they had
Didn't a guy jump into a polar bear pit?
no, but they had other crazy shit, but like
Right.
it was wrapped around some kind of structure, uh, and they might have sketches that would last 7 minutes. They might have a sketch that would last 1 minute. Uh, but they formatted it so that there was some structure to it, and plus it was a different type of filming.
Mm. It's funny how like that kind of stuff can, because we've talked about this. Like I think I've seen at least 90% of Adam Sandler's movies, even when I know they're horrible, because I feel like I've got to watch them as
I mean,
his fan.
it's true about any artist you grow up with. Uh, you're gonna have a band that you're gonna love, and their first three albums are amazing, and then they start getting older and start experimenting, and their songs don't rock as hard. And I'm a diehard U2 fan. Uh, they've definitely changed over the years, but I'll stick with them no matter what.
By the way, have you seen, not to get off topic, but have you seen that first video on YouTube, their first TV appearance in England?
Yeah, yeah.
I was rewatching that last week. It's pretty awesome. Making me like, wow, these guys are actually amazingly good as kids.
Wait. Which one are you talking about?
They're on some English TV show, and like this, the music sounds totally different than today's music, but it's still pretty like this catchy '80s. It's if you just YouTube's first TV appearance.
Right, right. And they were
Uh,
they were wearing like flashy '80s clothes, right?
yeah, like yeah, exactly, and like Bono's like dancing around and stuff, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's the funny part. That was when they formed as a band. They didn't have much going for them. Uh, they just knew they liked playing music together, and Bono had the confidence to be a frontman. So that first appearance on TV, that song isn't even recorded on their albums.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, that was just like their
That was
first
a good song.
try.
That was a pretty good song, actually.
It's okay, yeah, but they're like they were trying to be what they thought was popular.
Hmm.
So that's actually one of the only songs the guitarist Edge has a solo in,
Okay.
and for the next album, they're like, no, let's just stick with what we know, what we love, and so like if you see the video they made right after that for "I Will Follow," it's very stark contrast, and the song is just tight punk song, and that's good example of doing what you know and doing what you love rather than trying to uh, play to others.
Hmm. Do you feel like it's tied back in SNL? Do you feel like the music has changed uh, on like the way like they showcase? Because I think I sent you that G.E. Smith interview. I don't know if you watched it or not, but
What did you say?
it was just like how the day to day was on SNL, and he talked about how he was eventually fired, and just the whole music, how it was constructed. It was really fascinating because in addition to, I mean, I look past, but in addition to comedy, I think it's helped showcase bands. Like it's had a huge, I think it's had a musical influence as well in showcasing bands and some pretty epic performances. Like I remember even watching Nirvana on SNL, and I'm not even a big music guy, but there are some performances that are pretty much etched into my mind from SNL, and they're super hard to find on YouTube. I can't find half of them. They've done a good
Yeah,
job
I mean,
locking that stuff down.
now the smart thing they first did, or Lauren Michaels first did, was associate it with music. I
Yeah.
mean, they not only had established acts, but they had up and comers. You know, people you never heard of. And the weird, unfortunately, the weird part is no, actually, it still holds true. They still do that. I just feel like nowadays,
Like, who was a band that was on SNL that blew up afterwards? Was there anybody like that?
yeah, tons. Uh,
Crash
I mean,
Test
it
Dummies.
was first, it's the first major exposure, TV exposure for a lot of bands. Well, before the internet, basically. Um, Nowadays, I feel like these bands are when they do come on. I haven't heard them. They do actually have a huge following before, uh, just because of social media. I mean, if you want to go to like, let's say Cardi B,
Yeah.
she had this song. Never really heard of her. I don't know much about her. I think if social media wasn't around, her SNL experience would be like talked about for decades. For like, because you have this social media machine, it, SNL has now just become a stop.
Yeah. I don't know if you can. I can only talk about comedy, but I know from my stand-up friends, no one single TV appearance. Actually, that's not true. I mean, Russell Peters' internet thing, because once things go viral, I mean, I'm saying you need something to kind of proliferate on the internet. Uh, like one TV appearance can make you, but it's got to be spread around. But just
Well, yeah,
doing one thing, and having it just be that one thing where it just airs that one night and then it's gone, it's not going to do it. You need some more eyeballs on that.
right, right, and that's yeah, social media. I mean, but back in the day, you didn't need that. One stand-up spot in Carson meant 30 million people saw you.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't exist today. Like, although some of that Conan stuff, a friend was telling me there's this guy named Ismo, some Swedish comedian who did Conan, and like it's been shared like 30 million times. Like so even those Conan appearances among my stand-up friends, they're like, yeah, that's a good spot to be on because if it can catch fire, because Conan's got apparently like 5 million on his YouTube. So if it can be seen and people start sharing it, that's good, man. That can really just change the game in a
Hmm.
matter of days.
Right, right.
So circling back to SNL, do you watch that show today?
Yeah, every Saturday.
Do you seriously watch that show?
Thanks for insulting me.
Are you joking? I don't know. I can't never tell.
That I don't watch it Saturday. I watch it the next day on Hulu.
How does it hold up? Like, what's the difference? I don't
Well,
watch it at all. I can't really
I
comment.
mean, it's the same thing. Sometimes a lot of it has to come down to the writing. Sometimes and whoever's hosting, uh, it's definitely not. See, it's the age. If you're 12, 13, you're going to connect to it. Because it's at that age. It's new to you. You know.
Right.
when you're older, you're comparing it to everything else that's been done before. So if a sketch is really funny to a 13-year-old, it's because it is, because he's seeing it for the first time. He's not comparing it to the comedy he's seen for the past 20 years.
Yeah, I think there's some truth there.
I mean, that's why as you get older, the new stuff doesn't hit you as hard because you're always comparing it. You're saying, yeah, but it's not like this.
I remember I took this comedy writing class. So stupid. And anybody who teaches a comedy writing class needs to be shot. And it was at NYU, right? And this lady was an SNL writer, right, from like the 80s. And I remember she went up on this rant. And she was like, SNL was the best in 78 or something like that. And we were like, what the hell are you talking about? Because, like, that was her generation, like that was her thing. And she was like, she just went off about how, it's crap now. And this was like back in, early 2000s, whatever. So for her, it was when Chevy Chase was on or Dan Aykroyd. But I guess, that changes with age, like you said.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's still good. I just think, some kid is going to be like, if you talk about SNL with maybe your cousin, uh, Nira, you know, he's going to be like, oh yeah, what is Pete Davidson? Yeah, he's hilarious, man. He's so much better than Adam Sandler, and you're going to be like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, sure. Although I think, I mean, the one argument I can always make is the longevity of Adam Sandler. Like, you don't know where these people are going to be. I
Well,
think
no
it's
one.
harder.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you just don't know. But Adam Sandler, I can always say, dude, whatever people say about Adam Sandler, dude, the longevity this guy's had in the business.
yeah, obviously now you can say that. I mean,
Yeah,
you made Billy Madison. You could say, oh, he's never going to make a movie again.
yeah, totally.
But actually, I like Pete Davidson. I hope he does have a further career.
I don't know much about him, to be honest. Is he talented?
Uh, he doesn't have much of a range, but he is a silly, goofy guy. Very much like Sandler he was back in the day. I think if he finds the right role, he could definitely be a good comedic actor.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. I think having the stars align. I mean, it really that's the truth. I mean, Adam Sandler, he kind of he caught a spark with Billy Madison, and he was making movies with this guy named Bob Simons, who runs the studio now called STX in Hollywood, and those guys were just crushing it. Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and even you can make the same argument with Adam Farrell, and you can disagree with me here, but when he teamed up with McKay, like that was the perfect storm to make. Because when I was talking to, not the trash comedians here, but we were talking about Dane Cook, and we were like, "What the hell happened?" Because the guy was on top, and I was like, "Look, he didn't catch fire. Like he was there, and he had some opportunities, but there's luck getting there, a little bit of luck getting there, and there's a lot of luck uh, starting a flame and keeping that going. It's a tricky business.
That's it's interesting you bring up luck. I was just reading this Twitter. This is how we know we're in a new age. It was like it was a Twitter post.
Mm.
This guy brought up a good point. He's like, how come artists are afraid, or even successful people are afraid to bring up luck in how they achieve their success? I mean, yes, they had talent, they worked hard, they persevered, but a lot of people do that, and they don't become as successful as they want to be, and that's where luck comes in. And James Gunn actually chimed in. He's the director of the Guardians for the Galaxy movies. He's someone who's been in the industry for a while, and he just took off with the Guardians movie, and he was saying that because he thinks luck is a very small part in the equation of success, and he says it kind of takes away from all of your efforts and hard work that you put in, and kind of and it drives the point home that there's randomness to the universe. But I'm on the other side. I think luck is a huge part of the equation.
I definitely think you can increase your chances of being seen by the harder you work. But I mean, I know a lot of people who have gotten shots and it didn't pan out for whatever reason.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
like, just take a random example. I've been I've been with you to some comedy clubs and seen some comedians who I thought were like really funny, and I
like
thought,
who? Name names. Who?
I don't even know their names.
Me?
No, you do not deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, just I don't know. Like, there's some random uh, black guy at the comedy store. He
Random
also
black guy.
not comedian.
Tell us more.
He's maybe remember him. He's like very really small. Uh, I think he used to work as a waiter there too. He did stand up on the side.
Where's in Boston or where?
No, in L.A.
LA, black comedian, used to work as a waiter. I don't know.
Or even I remember this guy who was like a from the Midwest, and he kind of had a slow drawl. He kind of had like a speech impediment.
Hmm, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, exactly.
LA?
You know what? Huh?
It's LA?
L.A. Yeah.
I don't I don't know any of my comedians with a speech impediment. I'm not really sure who that
Yeah,
is.
no, because I just remember seeing them, and I thought like they actually have pretty good stand up and good rapport with the audience, and I'm like, these are the guys who I'd want to see on TV, because they were. I mean, to me, they just look different. They weren't, these white guys in their 30s. It's the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. No, there is. I had lunch with an actor friend, and
Ooh, Dish. Who is it?
his name was
Brad Pitt.
his name was Michael Beniar. Uh, he was in Deadpool. He's a he's a pretty established actor, and he was like, he asked me how come I never I was. He goes, oh, you'd be going to the Daily Show, which I wouldn't be. And he goes, how come? What happened there? And I was like, well, I've never auditioned for the Daily Show ever. And he was like, why? And I was like, it just the opportunity never came. Now, there's two things I can say about that. Is one, I can be like, oh yeah, I wasn't lucky enough to get on that thing. But two, honestly, I didn't push hard for that. I didn't campaign for that. I also worked on the business of entertainment for many years, so I that was my own fault for not, doing. If I really wanted it, I probably could have figured out a way to do it. So I feel like, yeah, there was kind of an element of going after it and luck, of really putting it on your sights and radar and moving after it. You got to be like a shark almost. So there's a balance between both worlds.
Right, right. So
Oh,
yeah.
here's a great story. The tie is back in SNL, and again, I know we talked about this. Was David Spade and Rob Schneider? They talked about how they got on SNL, and they did HBO's Young Comedian special. They got seen there. Lauren Michaels saw them, and this is all in their books and shit. So you can look it up on the internet. And then they went and showcased at this club on the Upper East Side in New York, and they both said their sets were really bad. They weren't that good. And the guy who's the voice of SpongeBob, I don't even know what the guy's name is. Apparently, he killed, destroyed, and Lauren Michaels ended up selecting Spade and Schneider for the show. And when they asked him later, Lauren Michaels was like, "I like the way you think." You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure that night they were like, "Oh man, my career is over. I didn't get the show." But then through some random luck, Lauren Michaels liked what they did. You know what I'm saying? So there's an X factor for sure.
Right, right. Yeah, I think that's can be true in uh, any experience. Doesn't necessarily have to be with entertainment.
Well, let me ask you a question. I mean, do you think success is having commercial success, or can you be successful just making say you were just doing comedy, making a living, a decent living in it? Is that successful?
It comes down to two things. I think it comes down to personal goals and um, what you're capable of. Uh, if you want to stick with entertainment, let's say you're a character actor. Okay, let's say you're Bryan Cranston, right?
Or Ellen Cleghorn from Saturday Night Live?
All right. Yeah. Okay, fine. Ellen Cleghorn. She was a funny woman. She didn't. I don't think she really had any backing, help from Lorne Michaels or any other people to help her get her own TV show or movies. Uh, or maybe she just didn't test well under that situation. So that's why she didn't become as famous as the other people. All right, here's a good example. Will Ferrell and what's his name?
Chris Kattan.
Chris Kattan. Yeah. How come one had huge success, the other one not as much? Uh, Maybe Chris Kattan met his goals. He was on SNL. He's done movies, television shows. Uh, Will Ferrell, he's
A
gone
major movie
above
star.
above and beyond maybe his goals. So what I'm saying is, if you want to be, let's say you start out working as a cashier at a fast food place. If you're a cashier 10 years later, I don't think that's success. If 10 years later you're managing the place, I think that's successful. So success to me means moving
What are we talking
up.
about? I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I follow you.
No, you asked about success.
No, I don't. I agree with you completely. By the way.
Yeah, success. So success means moving up or moving lateral even uh, in whatever place you are currently.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I guess it's subjective. Chris Kattan. This is turning into. I don't get a habit of saying this, but like my friend was he was writing for Chris Kattan or something. I guess Chris Kattan's doing stand up. Did I tell you this? And he'd go over to write, and Chris Kattan would just want to watch movies or something.
Mm.
But it's like, damn, dude. Like, I think Chris Kattan's hilarious. I think some of the shit he's done, dude. Some of the shit he's done
Your
is
favorite
hilarious,
movie is Corky Romano.
dude. Have you seen Corker Romano? That's a great movie, man. That's hilarious. Have you seen it?
Hello, want to buy some cookies?
Did he like it? First of all, did he like that movie?